Don't seek yourself outside yourself, or seek no opinion but your own. Man is his own star, and the soul that can render an honest and a perfect man commands all light, all influence, all fate. Nothing to him falls early or too late. Our acts our angels are, or good or ill, are fatal shadows that walk by us still. Man often doesn't believe his own thoughts until he sees them somewhere else. To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius. Our deepest convictions and thoughts have universal significance. What is true for us in our own hearts is true for all men. We recognize these thoughts when we see them in the work of others. When we do recognize such thoughts, they take on a certain alienated majesty. That sense of majesty should convince us to rely on our own impressions. Otherwise, a stranger will say with masterly good sense precisely what we have thought and felt all the time, and we shall be forced to take with shame our own opinion from another. Great artists and geniuses never take their thoughts from each other. Moses, Plato, and Milton ignored books and traditions, and spoke not what men thought, but what they thought. Most men, however, dismiss their own thoughts simply because they belong to them. A man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, and he adds, he should pay more attention to the gleam than he does to the beautiful words of writers and sages. We are ashamed of that divine individuality, and therefore only half express ourselves. Yet until we express the other half, there will be no inspiration, no genius, no invention, no hope. This requires courage, and it requires acceptance. Acceptance of the place, society, and events in which God has placed us. We must accept our transcendent destiny, not flee from it like cowards. And we must go forth as redeemers and benefactors, advancing against chaos and the dark. The boy is master of society, independent, irresponsible, looking out from his corner at people and facts that pass by, trying and sentencing them on their merits. He doesn't worry about consequences. He gives an independent, genuine verdict. You must court him. He doesn't court you. The adult man, in contrast, is a captive. He cares about the opinion of others and the praise of his fellow man. He no longer has the unbiased, unaffected, unbribable innocence of his youth. Society is a conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members. It holds conformity as the greatest virtue and self-reliance as the enemy. It loves names and customs more than it loves realities and creators. One's own opinions and thoughts, which are so clear and strong in solitude, become obscured when we enter the outside world. Therefore, whoever would be a man must be a nonconformist. Furthermore, a man can't be hindered by goodness or what society says is goodness, but must instead explore what goodness is. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of our own mind. He should be truthful, even if the truth is rude and rough. Truth is handsomer than the pretense of love. Men do good actions like they pay fines, as if it's an apology for living in the world. Men like to parade their virtue. He believes a life should be unique and shouldn't rely on assurance from others. He's concerned only with what he must do and not what people think. And this rule, he says, is the whole distinction between greatness and smallness. It's particularly hard because there are always others who think they know your duty better than you do. It's easy to live in the world by the standards of the world's opinions. It's easy to live in solitude and follow your own. But the great man is the one whom he describes as he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. To be a nonconformist, one must concentrate one's force. Conformity scatters that force, wastes your time, and blurs the impression of your character. It's impossible to know what the constantly conforming man really thinks about anything, and most men do attach themselves to some community of opinion. This conformity makes them false, not in just a few particulars, but in all particulars. Foolish face of praise. The forced smile we put on when we're in the company of people or conversation that doesn't interest us. He considers this expression mortifying and says no brave man will suffer it twice. The nonconformist must be prepared to face the wrath of both the cultivated classes and the common people. For nonconformity, the world whips you with its displeasure. A tendency to want to act as we have in the past, so as not to disappoint others. He calls on people to trust their emotions and says, when the devout motions of the soul come, yield to them heart and life. A foolish consistency, according to Emerson, is the hobgoblin of little minds. Great souls, on the other hand, have nothing to do with consistency. They speak what they think today, and tomorrow they speak what they think tomorrow, even if it contradicts what they said the day before. Of course, the result of this is that you'll be misunderstood. But what is wrong with being misunderstood, he asks. Pythagoras was misunderstood, as were Socrates, Jesus, Luther, Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, and every pure and wise spirit that ever lived. To be great is to be misunderstood. Inconsistency doesn't really exist anyway. Even in the midst of variety, unity prevails. All the varied thoughts will in the end be found to be symmetrical. Even in his bursts of will, man can't violate his nature. The key to action, therefore, is naturalness. Each action must be honest and natural in its hour. Then there is always consistency. The actions will be harmonious, however different they seem, because they all spring from the same tendency toward honesty. Genuine actions explain themselves, and they explain future actions, whereas conformity explains nothing. The force of character is cumulative. Greatness is an act that now leads to greatness in the future. A true man is the center of all things, and belongs to no place or time. Every true man is a cause, a country, and an age. All of history can be condensed into the biographies of a few great men. The private man who acts with original views has just as much luster as kings and gentlemen. It is equally accessible to the common man today, living in a small house doing a day's work. This adoration of kings has obscured man's consciousness in his own right. The true aristocracy consists of men who respect themselves and act on their convictions. Don't seek yourself outside yourself, or seek no opinion but your own. Man is his own star, and the soul that can render an honest and a perfect man commands all light, all influence,